Welcome to Encounter, where we celebrate putting faith into action and community leaders who live out compassion, grace, and love. We're a program of the Broome County Council of Churches that addresses food insecurity through Chow and the Greater Good Grocery, provides hospital and jail ministry, builds wheelchair ramps, and assists neighbors with transportation and shopping services through Faith in Action volunteers. We invite you to the conversation. Encounter your neighbors as we learn to walk together in love and kindness.
Good morning and welcome to Encounter. I'm your host today, Joe Sellepack, the Executive Director at the Broome County Council of Churches. One of the aspects of being a minister in the church these days is that one has to really be cognizant about the fact that congregations tend to also, they're a place of healing for many people, but on the other hand, they also attract a certain element within the community that knows that children and other vulnerable adults are inside of the church. And so as a result, we end up having to try to figure out ways of weeding out those problems that might exist within the church, as well as trying to feed a healthy environment for people who come into the church that are looking for healing and for wholeness and for family and community and connection. All the good things that come from being a member of a congregation. And so as a result of these things, many congregations like the United Methodist Church have begun implementing things called safe sanctuaries, or many of the other denominations have a different moniker for the same program, which is trying to help our sanctuaries be a safe, secure, loving, and nurturing environment for all of its members. And to help me weed out some of these things is a person. Her name is Amber Gregory. Amber is currently a licensed pastor with the United Methodist Church, but more in particular, she is working as a trainer for safe sanctuaries in the United Methodist Church. And also a second year ATM student at Drew University,
yes.
Or Drew Seminary.
Yes.
So welcome to Encounter today, Amber.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to be here.
So Amber, how important is this work of trying to create safe sanctuaries?
So for me, I consider it just kind of my personal ministry. I care so much about our kiddos. I've been religious ed teacher. I've been religious ed superintendent. I just love the little guys. And to know that we have spaces that we strive to make very safe, and that it's nothing bad is going to happen on our watch, it matters so much to me.
And as far as the congregations are concerned, I mean, we're talking about. So can you put it into perspective? So we know that there a certain amount of people are in the world that kind of are predators, that kind of look at things like this. How many times has a congregation been used in that kind of thing, that kind of way? Is there any statistics on that?
I can only give you the statistics from the United Methodist Church, and I can tell you that since Safe Sanctuaries was implemented, which was about 20 years ago, we have had no incidents in our churches. That's nationwide.
Nationwide.
So it matters. It matters to do training. It matters to have people's awareness that it could happen, what to look for if it does happen, how to do it, but we also have lots of layers of protection in place. So there just is no opportunity, because opportunity matters. If you've got an organization that just isn't mindful of this, then predators that infiltrate organizations are going to see it as an easy target, and they're going to want to get close to kids, whether it's in the church or whether it's in a different place. They'll find spaces to get close to children where there's opportunity. And
we were talking about this earlier, where we know that it happens in schools, it happens in hospitals, it happens in any place.
It's wherever the kids are.
Right, wherever kids are and wherever vulnerable people exist. And so as a result of that, we end up, and of course, the churches have the moral capability or the moral standing. They say, well, these are the rules, and if we abide by these rules, then we will never have,
Yes.
this kind of
Right.
activity going on within the church, and yet we find it happening, and so people then say, well, it's they're hypocrites or any number of
Right.
other things
Right.
involved in it. So,
Yeah, like I'll just say again though, it's not been happening at the United Methodist churches. But you do hear on the news, right? It
Right.
happened at this Baptist church, it happened here, it happened with this non-denominational, and it was the clergy member, right? Or it was a youth leader, and again, Christians tend to be forgiving, accept all. We know people sometimes come who have brokenness in their lives, and we love them and we care about them, and we want them to feel they belong. However, when it comes to our vulnerable population, our kids, our vulnerable adults, some seniors who are particularly vulnerable, then it's also our responsibility to make sure they have a safe space to worship in.
right.
So safe sanctuaries is important because those vulnerable populations, they can't protect themselves.
Right.
So if they don't have someone else watching out for what's happening, then maybe a person who has problems that gravitates to a church and then sees kids that are unprotected, they might feel like, oh, this is a good place I could get involved and have some ulterior motives. We don't want to assume anybody walking through the doors is going to be a problem.
Right.
We have rules in place because one thing I'll tell you for sure, if somebody's going to be a problem, they will be rule breakers.
Right.
So if they're breaking rules, you just say, I'm sorry, you can't be part of our Sunday school, or you can't be part of the vacation Bible school because we have rules in place for a reason and you're not following our rules.
And it's important to be able to say to people no.
Very important.
Right.
And it's important, and I think the Safe Sanctuaries training, which I'm pretty sure I saw you in.
Oh, I was. I did it.
I saw you this last Saturday, didn't I?
I did. You did.
So it's important to know that when people in our church anyway go through the Safe Sanctuaries, it's a 3 or 3.5 hour training, they learn the rules, but why we have the rules and what to do if rules are being broken. Right? What is the chain of command? What do I do if I see something? Well, you go to your pastor. What does your pastor do? They call their district super and we figure this out. You're not on your own. Do I have to be a mandated reporter? Like, oh my gosh, because 9 times out of 10, just the fact that we have so many rules in place and we have people take trainings and we do background checks, predators are going to find our churches as a difficult place to get close to kids, and they'll go elsewhere.
And that's an important thing to remember.
Yeah. I mean, it's my personal hope because I do presentations myself in the secular community, but it's my hope that when organizations get really good at no opportunity, it drives predators into riskier places where they'll get caught and then they will be found on a background check.
Now, one of the things that I learned during the Safe Sanctuaries training was that you have a personal experience involved with this.
I do. So when I was 12, I was an avid dancer. I was at the studio 5 nights a week, but I was groomed and then abused by my dance teacher.
And that must have been within one of those gray areas where you have a teacher or somebody who's supposed to be involved with teaching dance or instructing you.
Right.
One of those places where that personal instruction was obviously outside of the main environment where all the students were gathered.
Yeah, so again, opportunity matters, right? So he spent a year grooming me into a position where I was looking for his approval and looking for his attention, but the abuse actually happened downstairs in the downstairs studio where there was no windows, there was nobody else down there in my solo lesson, him and I alone. So like I said, opportunity matters. Did he do things to me in the middle of a group lesson upstairs with the windows and the parents watching? Absolutely not. It happened downstairs on our solo lessons and where nobody could see.
Do you know if this was a pattern of behavior with this individual?
I do know that it was, because he was arrested. That would have been going on with me, based on my age, probably around 1982, around 1982 or 83, but he was arrested in 1994 for having non-consensual sex with a girl under the age of 13, one of his dance students. He pled guilty. He served time. Part of his probation was to not be able to be around children, but he ignored the rules, and 3 or 4 years later, he was back teaching, and then he was arrested again when he was 39 years old, again, non-consensual touch with a minor, one of his dance students, and he was arrested again, and he pled guilty again. People who perpetrate in this way have very poor boundaries with children. They don't see children, they don't see themselves as hurting these kids. So they don't change. They really don't change. That's why we have so many rules in place to protect the kids, because you can't expect the adult to say, okay, yeah, that was wrong, I won't do it anymore. They're not likely. There's 3 levels of offense. He was a level 3 offender. That means very likely to perpetrate again.
Right.
And he did.
Yeah.
And then we know that for sure because he was caught. But a lot of these guys don't get caught.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as far as trying to, and this is why it's so important to you. One of the reasons that it's so important to you that children are protected is because of the experience that you went through.
Yeah. Luckily for me, I mean, I had some holes in my upbringing, but my family wasn't abusive. It was always a safe place to be. It didn't happen at home. I had another place to go, and I probably had some more resiliency than some other people who are also targeted. But honestly, it stays with you, this kind of abuse, because it's psychological, because they don't just like grab you and attack you and it's a one-time trauma. They spend time grooming and psychologically kind of turning the tables and mixing you up and having you doubt yourself and then needing their approval. So they're both the abuser and then the one person that gives you praise. It's very confusing as a child, or even as a young adult or vulnerable adult. It's a very confusing type of abuse, and it takes special counseling to get over it. Just talk therapy isn't really the only thing that will work. You really need trauma counseling. You need to rebuild your sense of self. It's a process called recovery, which I'm older now, so I've been through that. And then writing the book was also therapeutic.
So this is a book that you wrote about your experience called Little Sweetheart: How I Healed After Sexual Abuse and How You Can Protect Other Children from Grooming and Abuse. It's just a little book by Amber Gregory that will talk a little bit about that experience as well as how you can help heal.
Yes, I don't really intend it to be graphic. I tried to use the softest language I could. We're actually re-editing the book right now for even softer language because the publisher has been asked to have this be something that like teens could read, and they could read my book now, maybe age 14 and older. So we've even softened the language a little bit more because it's not so much the sensation of the story that happened to me. It's using my personal experience to help people see this was this stage of the abuse, this was this stage of the abuse, because there's a very well documented cycle of this kind of abuse. So I think if people understand the whole cycle, one, it helps them, if they've been abused, put things in perspective. Like, oh, that's what happened to me? I had no idea I was being led through this whole process the whole time. It's hard for the person in it to see it.
Right.
But I have found that there's been a second audience of people who used it as education. It hadn't happened to them. But they were like, wow, I didn't know this. And now they're looking to keep an eye on their little ones, or to keep an eye on their grandkids. Or, I gave my prevention workshop to New York State guidance counselors and teachers who wanted continuing education on the subject to understand that whole cycle, to prevent, before the abuse happens. So
my guest today is Amber Gregory, and we've been talking about her experience at being groomed as an abusive by an abuser who preyed upon children, preyed in the wrong way,
Yeah.
P-R-E-Y-E-D,
Yeah.
instead of praying for children, which I do all the time because it's hard to be kids these days.
Yeah.
But also how congregations can help protect children from these types of environments where, or be a safe place, a safe sanctuary for young people and children and vulnerable adults. So what are some of the big practices that a congregation can do in order
Right.
to protect
I will
children?
say, I think the United Methodist Church is doing an amazing job with the program that they've developed and the training that they insist on. So everybody who works with our kids has to do Safe Sanctuaries training. But the biggies are, one, we do background checks right off the bat, right? You're going to find some things sometimes, but that won't be enough. So we have to have doors in the window, or windows in the doors, pardon me, windows in the doors. Anybody could walk by and see what's happening in that classroom. We team teach, so we don't have adults alone with kids. Team teach, it's gotta be 2 adults in that room. They can't be family members, they can't be related, they have to be 2 people who want to be there to teach. So you can't just have one Sunday school teacher, right?
Right.
That would be too much access. You can't be alone in a car with a child. Again, you have to have 2 unrelated adults. If you need to transport a kid here or there, or their parent needs them to get a ride home, I mean, things happen, of course. So those are the biggies that, it's opportunity. Like, make sure there's no opportunity for someone to be alone with a child. We don't expect all of our teachers are predators. We just know people who are predators will not follow those rules.
And that's an important thing for people to realize, is that as long as you're obeying the rules, and that's why every congregation needs to have these rules in place, because you want to make sure that you are a safe place for people.
Yeah, parents, I mean, they have to be so cautious these days. I mean, there is so much going on. There's internet abuse happening, there's trafficking is just mushrooming everywhere. Like, it's important to parents. Parents care about their kids, and they're protective of their kids. And for them to leave their child with us, even if it's for an hour for Sunday school, or it's for 2.5 hours for a vacation Bible school in the summer, parents need to have confidence that their kid's safe where they're leaving their child. And we want our people who are working with children to have that experience, so they have the confidence to know, if I see something that is not following the rules that I was trained with, what do I do? Or if I see a child who's come in and they're showing signs of abuse, because that also is part of the training, what do I do? Or if a child comes to me because they do feel safe because I am their teacher, and they say, I'm afraid something's happening in my life, what do I do?
Right.
So we have very clear education on what to look for, but then we also have clear, what do you do? Well, you don't blow everything up and blame the father and go crazy, and you talk to your pastor. You try to get a trauma counselor involved so they can talk to the child, because they're trained to. We're not trained to do that.
Right.
But we can help connect to the people who are trained.
Now, one of the exercises that we work through with Safe Sanctuaries actually spoke to this, where there was a minister.
Yeah.
It was like a play,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
to speak, where there was a minister offering counsel to a student who within the youth group who was somebody who had been preyed upon.
Right.
So how in that instance, the minister had to be alone with the child.
Right.
So how do you balance that?
Right. So we recommend now that in that video, I know the one you're talking about. So he does some things that are wrong, and he does some things that are right.
Right.
One of the wrong things is shutting the door, because then
Right.
he's alone with the child. So we recommend now you might leave the door ajar, and you might have the secretary or something at least within earshot, so that someone else is there. Now, in the United States, well, in New York State, I can say clergy are not mandatory reporters,
Right.
because we do hear things that are confidential. However, in the United Methodist Church, so our rules are that you would need to report if somebody comes to you. You would
Right.
need to report that to, Child Protective Services and let them do an investigation.
All of which happened during the course of
Yes.
the play that
That's
went on.
right. So because the clergy are mandated reporters in the United Methodist Church. Sunday school teachers are not, though. Sunday school teachers don't have to shoulder that responsibility, but they do need to talk to their pastor right away.
And that is an important caveat, too, is that they can't hold on to that information.
No.
Or
And they
else,
can't act on it alone.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So,
And as far as understanding this, the larger picture again, we go back to that. So within the United States in general, we know that majority of the sexual abuse happens not from strangers, but from people that are
Yeah.
trusted and known to the child.
yeah.
So we're talking specifically about long-term relationships in many of these cases. And so like even in your case,
Yeah.
it was somebody who was known and trusted.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
My mother, I didn't tell anybody for a long time. I did end up telling my mom when I was in my 20s. I mean, she cried. She's like, I thought you were safe there. Like, she worked extra to pay for those dance lessons, and I loved dance. I loved it so much. I was at that studio all the time, but she felt like, great, Amber's safe. I know where she is. She's loving dance. She's learning a skill. She's doing, cooperative play with other people her age. She just cried and cried when she found out. 'Cause
Yeah.
she's like, I thought you were safe there.
Yeah.
Like, she really, really did, and I should have been.
You should.
And I also want to say, not every man or woman, it's predominantly men, but women can perpetrate as well. Not every man is a predator.
No.
Right? But people who are predators will get themselves into those positions of having a power differential over a child. That's another thing they need to manipulate. But most people are safe and genuinely do want to be a coach and give back and help kids and teach. But unfortunately, it will attract other people who have ulterior motives.
Yeah, because it seems to me as if the majority of us, like I was big into sports when I was a kid, and so as a result, my child got involved in sports,
Sure.
and I also became, helped out with when it was
Sure.
asked of me and all the rest of that kind
Yeah,
of stuff. So
sure.
I manned the I was one of the guys that holding the yardage stuff whenever
There we
and
go.
moving all the way up and down
Right.
the area there. But with children being involved in it, you also knew that that you were present. You know the people that were interacting with your child, and there was
Yeah.
no question at
Yeah.
all involved in it. And so usually that is the more the case than having somebody who's a predator. And the rules themselves, and we can't stress this enough, the rules themselves help weed out
Yes.
those individuals.
Yes.
And so by maintaining the rules, by keeping vigilant,
Yeah.
you can make sure that those folks are found.
Yes. And I want to add something because this comes up a lot. You don't need to scare your kids
Right.
that everybody they meet might possibly hurt them, because it's not likely.
Right.
It's not the norm. So I say to people, teach your kids like the buddy system. I love the buddy system. Just make that a policy. Where's your buddy? Why are you walking around alone? Who's your buddy today? If you're a teacher and for some reason you don't have another adult present, right? It's you and somebody had to take a kid to the nurse's office, and now here you are with you and the kids, and you need to go get balls for the game you're going to play. You don't go alone with one kid to help you get balls. Let's all go. Jane, Janet, let's all go get balls. And you go as a group and you take all of them with you so that you're not alone with the kids. The kids aren't alone by themselves, right? So there's just some of those little policies you can put in place. So your kids get used to, who's your buddy today? Who are you walking, who's going to go tell the pastor that, when's children's time? We need to ask the pastor a question or something. Get them used to not running around alone.
So Amber, if there's a Sunday school teacher or a pastor or somebody who's watching the show or listening to the show that wanted to reach out to you to find out more information on this, how would they get in touch with you?
So you can go to my website. It's ambergregoryauthor.com, or you can just email me directly. It's ambergregoryauthor@gmail.com. You can just Google Amber Gregory Author and a whole bunch of things will come up, and you can click on any of those and you'll get a hold of me somehow. I would love to tell churches, if you want to do this, I have a 50-minute presentation. It's not the whole Safe Sanctuaries training, but I have a 50-minute presentation on how to spot a predator. And it's interactive, it's lively, it's not graphic. But if you wanted to host one of those, either for your church or have the church host it in a community for parents to come and get educated or grandparents to come and get educated, I would love to do that. I do that for free. Like I said, it's near and dear to my heart. And I love to just raise awareness, raise the education on this, because groomers don't just groom the kids.
Right.
They groom their coworkers, they groom the moms, they groom the grandparents, and they're long-term players. I mean, literally age 7 is not too young to start grooming, even if the perpetrating age is age 11 or 12. So they're long-term players, they get above suspicion. It could never be him. He's been with us for 10 years. Well, like I said, they groom their coworkers. So it's a good thing to just learn, how do you spot a predator? They hide in plain sight. They play a very sophisticated game. But there are things you can actually see and look for. And once you see them, boy, you can't unsee them. So I would just say, if they feel like this is a ministry that they would like to put some time into, get a hold of me. We'll set up a day. We'll do it at your church. And and then I do a Q&A, and you wouldn't believe the questions I get. I get some great questions.
And that is www.ambergregoryauthor.com.
Yes, .com. Yeah.
And if person wants to get in touch with you, they can find that information there.
Yeah.
Thank you for being on Encounter today, Amber, and sharing your story and
it's my pleasure.
Talking with us about this. And for all of you who are here today, I hope that you have a good and safe day, and that you realize how important your love, your care, your concern is in keeping our children and vulnerable adults safe. Have a great day.